I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts, changes the things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts have the power to change my life. I can choose to be the light, brightness, someone's darkest night. I'm so much more than meets the eye. I cannot be defined, 'cause I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts, who changes the things that shape my life. I am the thinker who thinks the thoughts have the power to change my life. Have the power to change my life. Have the power to change my life. Woo!
Woo! Thanks, Craig. That was fantastic. Lovely. So, my talk today, I'm going to share the screen again just because I want to go right into my. Firstly, isn't that the cutest picture ever? I just love this little mouse guy, so sweet. Steph found that picture several years ago, and I fall in love with it every time. So today's message is about the power of praise, and I thought that face is praise right there. And just like all of you, I praise all of you. I look at all of your beautiful, glowing, happy faces in the room, and I think that you are all so amazing and wonderful, and I love being in the room with you. So let's praise one another as we move through this time together. So, oops, a little bit too far. So, the first thing that I wanted to share, it was really interesting to me. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. The as I was looking through my notes and my readings and all the different things that I could bring into this week, I went to the Bible verse that kept coming up for me, and it's kind of ironic in a little way that it comes up for me because it's a verse from Philippians, which is a letter from Paul, and I was never all that fond of Paul growing up. There's a lot of Paul is used a lot in some denominations to perpetuate things like homophobia and inequality in many ways. So I was never really fond of Paul. However, one thing that Paul does really well is grow a church. And I thought, well, isn't it awesome that right now is when I'm being drawn into reading a little bit more stuff from Paul, because here we are growing a church, we're getting started again, resurging. And so the verse that I looked at today is this one from Philippians. He says, "Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." When I had a look at, I often refer back to truthunity.net to look at for metaphysical interpretations of biblical stuff. And the funny thing, the very first line on their interpretations, they have a whole list of them, but the very first line was, what did they say? What verse in this lesson requires no metaphysical interpretation? Verse 8 in chapter 4 is complete in itself and will always be an up-to-date guide for people in all moral and religious states of consciousness. Boom, done. There's my talk. So the idea is that praise has power for us. Praise is a powerful element in our lives. And so I think it's perfect that Paul, the background behind this verse was that he was sending a letter of encouragement to his people in Philippi, because he was acknowledging things like that there was that they're being persecuted, that there are people that were against them, that there are difficult times, that this is a bit of a struggle, this isn't easy stuff that they're doing. But he said it's so worth it. We have a big and important goal. It's so worth it. So when you get into that place of feeling all of what's against you in life, turn to praise. Turn to your thoughts, to praising the things that are good and lovely in your life. And so this is where I wanted to go with our power today. Our power is the power of praise, because we know that our thoughts and our words have power. We know that. We teach that, we preach that, we learn to pray because we know that our words have power. But our words have power when we add the juice to them. And the juice that we add to them, the fuel that we add to them, is our praise, it's our feeling, it's our love, it's our joy. And so there are things that I see as being a part of praise. I see praise is kind of a mixture of love and gratitude and wonder and appreciation. It's all of those things mixed together. So all of those things are the things that give us juice and energy. And that's why in the 12 powers, zeal and power are mixed together as an energizing force, right? This is what we're doing. We're energizing our word. We're energizing our thought into what it is that we want in this world and in our lives. And Charles Fillmore writes it this way. He says, "The purpose of praise is to awaken in ourselves a higher realization of the omnipresence and power of God. Prayer and praise change a person, not God. The mental attitude that praise sets up stimulates, quickens, whirls into action, and finally establishes in character the ideals of which they are the vehicle." So that's it right there, that it stimulates, quickens, whirls into action, however you want to say it. Praise is what gives us the juice to do what it is that we need to do, or to be what we need to be in order to bring ourselves into the world in the way that we choose. And so what a wonderful thing for us to do within community, right? We want to grow this community. We want to bring our unity teachings, our new thought teachings out into the wider world. We want to bless the city of Winnipeg with our new thought community. So what do? We praise our community. We praise the goodness within our community. We praise the goodness within the city of Winnipeg. We praise the goodness within the teaching that we have available to us that brings us so much joy and life for ourselves. And therefore we bring that out into the world around us. So what should we praise and when should we praise? Well, we could say, praise everything all the time. That's a good starter rule. Let's start with that one. But when we are in places, I know for myself, when I'm in a place of feeling the struggle, feeling a bit of the downward turn of life, sometimes things happen and you feel like you've had the wind knocked out of you, or you feel like you've been blindsided by something, or you've got some difficulty. That is the perfect time to employ the use of praise. That is the perfect time, because what I do and what I will invite you and encourage you to do is to notice that within whatever situation there is, whatever it is that you are embroiled in, there's always a seed of goodness within it. There's always something within it that is for you. And if you can only find that one tiny little seed, that's all you need. Just praise the heck out of that. Just praise that in a way that brings your whole heart to be grateful and appreciative and loving and kind about that one thing. Because that is the way that you bring yourself out of those times of struggle and strife. That is the way that you open yourself up. See, struggle and strife are all constricting energies in our lives. They make us smaller. They make us shrink. In order to be expansive, and to open up all of our options and our opportunities, we need to be in an open-hearted energy of praise, open-heartedness, open wholeheartedness, being in that praise and love and gratitude and joy and appreciation. That opens us up in a way that makes more possibilities available to us. And so just like with our community right now, we're looking for a place where we can be together in an in-person situation. Well, we can start praising where we're at right now. Start praising the people that are in the room right now. Start praising all the resources that we have, all of the ability that we have to reach out into the world. We start praising all of those things, and that is how we open up the possibilities, and that's how we open up our minds and our hearts to be able to see the opportunities that can come to life for us. So that is one way that we start with praise. Now, I wanted to give you an example of how praise worked. I can give you 1,000 examples, but I'm going to give you one. So what I think most of you know already is a few years ago, Rev Steph and I were on our way to California. We were moving to Southern California. We had accepted a position in ministry there. They were working on getting our work visas done. We sold our house. We sold all of our belongings, or most of them, put the rest in storage, and we decided we were going to head down to California a little bit early and get to know the community, so that the very minute that the work visa came through, we could dive in and start living our 20-year plan. 20-year plan. We had a long vision for what we were going to do in Southern California. And then COVID happened. And Justin Trudeau said Canadians have to go home. And so we did. We had to turn around. Our health insurance, our travel health insurance became invalid. We weren't able to do anything. Now, I tell you, getting back to Canada, feeling kind of blindsided by the universe, not knowing what we were going to do next, that was a really understandable time. Like, a lot of people would have said, oh, it would be so understandable for you to sort of crawl into a little hole and get depressed and turn inward and decide that you are going to quit this whole ministry thing altogether, because clearly God didn't want you to do that. We could have told all kinds of stories, but instead what we did was we started to look around us and we started to give thanks. We got back to Canada, and one of the first things that I praised was our Canadian healthcare system. Because in the US, we wouldn't have been covered. I praised the Canadian government's CERB, because I was affected by COVID, having to come back to Canada. I was able to get CERB. That was a lifeline for us. That was a financial support. And I praised our government's ability and willingness to do that for its people. And I in that time I didn't know what I was going. I had the assurance of a paycheck with the ministry position in California, and suddenly I was without that, and I didn't know exactly what we were going to do, and we didn't have an idea of how we were going to unfold a ministry for ourselves or what we were going to do next. And so that gave us the breathing room, and so I praised that, and I had such deep gratitude for that. And you know what? Sure enough, as I was praising and having gratitude for this, I got a message from the Canadian government saying that I was actually eligible for regular EI, even after the CERB. So I had that extended. So not only did I have that goodness that I saw right in front of me in that moment that I could praise, but I was given more. This is how the universe works. I was given more, and that gave us a little bit of time to figure out what we were going to do with our ministry and how we were going to move forward. And what a blessing that was. So you see, the the moving into praise, you could be in that, it would be so understandable to be in that place of struggle and strife and unhappiness about it. It could be so understandable. But instead, by turning to praise, I turned away from the wallowing. I turned away from the feeling sorry for myself. And I turned to praise, and look at what has opened up. Because if all of that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have decided to move back to Winnipeg. I wouldn't be here today with all of you. I wouldn't be looking for a space to get into in-person community with all of you so that I could give you all hugs every Sunday morning if you let me. This is the beautiful thing when we have that ability to praise, when we have that ability to turn our mind to praise. It can be a very simple, not always easy, but a very simple way of shifting our energy so that we move from that constricted energy into a more expansive energy. So, if there is one thing that we can do when we are in those places of struggle, it's that we turn to praise. And sometimes that feels impossible. I get that. Sometimes that feels like I can't get myself out of this rut. I can't get myself out of this feeling of, that everything is coming down on me. The walls are coming down around me and I can't get myself out of this feeling. My suggestion in that, the very first thing to do, is to turn praise upon yourself. There's a beautiful quote from Tama Keeves that I'll show you a little bit later, but she talks about that when you create, in order to create your best life, you have to be best to yourself. You have to be good to yourself. And the first thing that we can do when we're in that place of feeling in the struggle is find a way to praise our own self. Because giving yourself that love, allowing yourself to feel that love, just cracks open a tiny space to be able to see the good that is all around you. And then you open that space a little bit wider to see the good in the world, to see that there is good growing in the world, that there is more that can happen, that there is more potential and more possibility. We turn our mind towards the praise of ourselves, and that turns our mind in a way to be able to see the praise of the world around us. So some of my go-to shifting practices when I'm in that place is, firstly, I remind myself that I'm brilliant, that I'm a pretty smart person, and that I am a ninja learner. I learn really quickly from all of those things that go wrong in my life. I can learn a lesson like nobody's business. So I'm a brilliant ninja learner. I can do that. Okay. I also remind myself that I have an immense capacity for love, that I am so able to love myself and love the world and love people around me, that I am a deeply giving person, and that my love is medicine for the world. So I remind myself of that, and I praise myself for that, for being that in the world. And I remind myself that I'm an infinitely creative individual, that I have this ability to see connections where nobody else can, or to find ways of looking at things differently. I am so creative. I can be a master storyteller too. I can be a master storyteller that can tell stories about how awful things are, but I can also turn that around and tell stories about how wonderful things are and can be for me. So I'm a master storyteller. How wonderful is that? I'm an awesome person that way. And some days I also decide to go and take a look in the mirror and say, you're looking mighty pretty today. Look at you. You've got great hair. Isn't that wonderful? Your skin looks great. You must have gotten a good night's sleep. And from there, just give myself all that love. When I give myself that love, when I fill myself up with the love that I know that I am, I also have that opportunity then to open myself to give that love out to the world. Because, like I said, when you, if you give yourself a good life, you cannot have a bad life. So I want to take a look at a couple of other quotes that I've got up there, because there's two others. So firstly, Charles Fillmore says, "You should bless everything. We should bless everything we have, for we can increase and multiply what we have by speaking words. Jesus said that his words were spirit and life. Do you ever think that your word is charged with great spiritual life force? Well, it is. If you talk about substance in a negative way, your finances will be decreased. But if you talk about it in an appreciative, large way, you will be prospered." And so that's what we want to do. We want to not just talk about it outwardly, but talk about it in our minds that way as well, to be able to see and appreciate and love all the good that is around us. Because, you know, we really are so blessed to be where we are in this country, in this city, in this time and place. We have blessings abound for us, and we can focus on those things and bring our praise to those things so that we can grow them. And there's that Tama Keeve, Thriving Through Uncertainty quote that I'd like to end with. "It is impossible to create a bad life if you're good to yourself." So be good to yourself, praise yourself, love yourself. You are fantastic and amazing, and I want you to know that, and I know that for myself as well as knowing that for you, and that is how we expand the good in our lives. So let's end with an affirmation.